Click.
Hello.
Welcome.
I know we're crazy.
You didn't know
today.
this was a comedy show, did you?
No, because everybody knows we're cray cray.
So, welcome to Bible
Welcome
Prophecy
back,
and Truth.
everybody.
You didn't get to do your regular hello.
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 So I'm just double checking Rumble to make sure it's still going to work fine for us today,
Yeah,
because
it's fine. I hope everybody's
wasn't
having a great
working.
weekend.
And
I hope
kinda
everybody's
weird
having
looking.
a good
Will you go to Rumble on your-
weekend.
will you click on it or refresh your screen and see how it looks?
David says hello. Hi,
For
David.
some reason, it's really weird looking.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Let me go to refresh.
Yeah, click the refresh. Just making sure Rumble's still working fine. Okay, now it looks good on my. Looks good on
There
my
we go.
iPad. All right.
I hope
Yay.
everybody's having a great weekend.
Yep. And everyone out there, next weekend, this next video is going to be.
Ooh, that's quick.
So part
Mhm.
11. When is the end of the world?
This will get done when it's the end of the world.
She already said that after she does all these whatever parts that she's doing, she's going to start working on blooper ones.
And a blooper reel. That'll be cool.
Yeah, we need some bloopers.
Yeah.
We really need some bloopers.
Cool.
With the music and everything involved in it.
Yeah.
So for anyone new, this is not a comedy show. We're actually talking about serious stuff.
Oh.
My name is Dan. I'm the author of BibleProphecyandTruth.com. This is my lovely wife, Colleen, co-hosting, and she is our moderator on our chats.
I'm the
And
mod
this is my sister in Christ and my wife's sister, blood sister, Diane, who is co-hosting with us as well. And Diane makes some really awesome videos that if you haven't seen any of them, you should watch them. They're really good. They're on my YouTube playlist. When is the end of the world playlist, and the Creation versus Evolution seminar. She's done 13 videos in those two series, plus a number of other ones under a playlist called Videos by Diane. There's quite a number of them that kind of intermixed in the videos that have been uploaded over the last couple of years. But really good stuff.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah.
David said, "Nice to meet you guys."
Oh, thanks, David.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you too.
So welcome everyone.
Hey, Jody.
Hey, Jody, welcome. And good to see you online, David. And just before we get started with the hello stuff, we're going to be talking about news that's happened since Wednesday, and that's related to biblical prophecy. We're going to talk about chapter 22 from my website /book. What is it about? Oh, how old is the earth? In the Creation versus Evolution series. How old is this planet? And so we're going to look at science data and we're going to look at biblical data. So we'll be talking about all that. So welcome.
So would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends and family, and go to Rumble and start an account if you do not have one, because periodically, for those that are new to the channel, periodically we need to go off script and go to Rumble because YouTube would shut us down for some of the subjects that we talk about. Just news. I mean, it's not bad. It's just news.
If we have time today, we may drop YouTube at the end for something specific I wanted to show you that's brand new. But it depends on whether or not we have time today.
Yeah. So hit it.
Okay. You guys all know my little friend here, Cardi.
Cardi card.
Interesting
Cardi
stuff.
card.
There's a bunch of interesting stuff. Cardi, what do you have on here? Oh, So what? Oh, I'm going to tell everyone that. Okay. What he wants me to tell you is if you're tired of going on the internet looking
I'm
for
not saying
content that's biblical, you're tired of looking for the truth and not finding it, all you're finding are people that just don't know what they're talking about or they're just lying, then go to BibleProphecyandTruth.com. Dan has compiled his notes and put them all, not all of them, but a majority of them on his website. It's in a lot of detail. He gives you scriptures and everything, pretty interesting stuff. I've been on there many times myself. And you can also join us for our live stream right here at youtube.com/prophecyandtruth. Or you can go over to rumble.com/Bible prophecy. If you have any questions or comments for Dan, then you can email him at prophecyandtruth@gmail.com.
on.
We also have a lot
It is
of
on.
interesting videos at videos.prophecyandtruth.com. I encourage you guys to watch these videos. They're coming out all the time. So be there or be rectangle.
David said, Cardi, wow. And hi, Moonhawk. Okay, he says, I was working on dating the earth going by the genealogies in the Bible from Genesis to Jesus, but I got distracted. Plus, Rome tampered with the times.
Thank you, Diane, by the way. So welcome, Moonhawk. And I actually have a list for you. What I did is I went to Luke, which has the genealogy list, and then I did a search in the Old Testament for all of those the fathers that are listed in there and how old they were when they had their son that's listed. So all the way to Abraham. And then we're given some scriptures in the Bible on, and this is all relevant to what we're going to talk about today. I'm actually going to be showing it to you later in this show today, where it tells us how long it was, how long it was when the period of Judges, how long it was for the period of how long it was as the sojourning of the children of Abraham in Egypt. There's actual scriptures that tell us those time frames, and then we know how long it was from the time of the kings, and then from Daniel to the time of Jesus. We don't need Rome for that, so we can determine all of that based on biblical time frames. So we'll talk about that later, though. So, and then the news today, of course, is I'm sure everyone has probably heard. If you haven't, I'm going to be the first one to tell you that Biden's actually dropping out of the presidential race. He announced it today.
He is, though.
And they're all endorsing, guess who? Cackling Kamala.
Well, we knew that was going to happen, but there's rumors
Boy.
stating that he doesn't even really know that he's dropped out. That
somebody else posted on his Twitter for him or something.
And they're trying to get him out. So who knows?
We know that he does what
surprised.
they tell him to do anyway. So, even though he was kind of fighting them, it looks like he's finally
I just can't imagine
acquiesced.
Jill wanting to leave that easy.
Well, she's probably part of the reason that they were fighting so hard. But Kamala Harris would be the absolute worst president we ever had, hands down.
Well, but
if she were to take over,
I don't know which one is worse.
Boy,
I just think they're both.
Well, they're all just puppets anyway. But Kamala Harris is kind of a loose end. I don't know how to put it. Anyway, that's the big news of today. We'll see what happens and whether or not Kamala Harris is actually nominated as the Democratic candidate or not. But
did they have it on other news stations or anything?
Yeah,
it's all over the news right now.
It is.
That's what everybody's talking about. Yeah. So, but we're not going to focus on that today. I really I try to
Yeah.
stay out of the political arena as much as possible, unless it
Yeah.
relates to biblical prophecy. So, I mean, that is the news, and it does matter to biblical prophecy, because one of the things that matters about it is, where is the United States? When we see Daniel 7 and we see the lion where the eagle's wings were plucked. So the United States came out of Great Britain and became its own entity. But it doesn't appear on the combined kingdoms of Revelation 13, where we see the lion and the bear and the leopard and the 10-horned beast. We don't see those eagle's wings, even though they were plucked. We don't see any mention of them. So that doesn't mean anything necessarily, but it's interesting to ponder what it might mean, and what it means for the future of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things I talk about is, a lot of people think that the United States is the eagle's wings in Revelation 12, but I like to point them back to the Old Testament when they came out of Egypt, where God bare them on eagle's wings. Well, that certainly wasn't the United States back then. So I don't think it's the United States in Revelation either. But that doesn't mean that the United States is not playing a role in the end time. It's just the way things are looking. It doesn't look like the United States is really a world power or playing a significant role in world events when the Antichrist takes over. So that remains to be seen. This is all speculative because, of course, it hasn't happened yet, and it's not specifically spelled out in the scriptures. And that's one thing I'll always point out to anyone new. If I'm speculating, I'm going to tell you, because there's things that we can only speculate about. There's things that we know for sure, but there's things that we cannot know for sure until it comes to pass. And I'll always be honest with you about that. So anyway, on to the news. We always talk about when is the end of the world. One of the things that we look at a lot is earthquakes, and I wanted to point out that we saw a 7.4, which is in South America here,
San Pedro,
which is a very big, major earthquake. A couple other sixes, near sixes. This is all just in the last week. I know these things kind of go under the radar, but it's not anything that's not significant. 403 earthquakes of 4.5 magnitude plus in the last 30 days. In the last 7, we've had a 7.4, a 6.2, a 6.0. This is significant stuff. So we look at that because this is one of the signs that Jesus gave that word herald is coming. Another is wars and rumors of wars. And if you haven't heard, Israel struck Yemen in retaliation for the drone attack, which could majorly escalate things. Hezbollah, if you don't know, has been constantly lobbing rockets at Israel. In fact, there's towns in northern Israel that are being hit. People are being killed, and it's not even in the news. You know why it's not in the news? Because they can't blame Israel for anything. So even though Israel's being attacked from Lebanon, they just don't say anything about it because they can't blame Israel for it. So it doesn't make the news. But it's constantly going on. A war with Hezbollah in Lebanon is something that's probably likely to escalate. This Yemen thing. I mean, war and rumors of wars. We talk about this a lot. The possibility of war with China looming on the horizon. In the Cold War era, it was mostly Russia. Now it's leaning towards China and Russia because they're colluding. They're actually doing war games together. They're having talks. It's the whole. What is it? China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran are the four over there that are.
That's the squad.
They're making plans big time. So
that's the squad.
We got to keep our eye on that. This Israel hitting Yemen looks like it could be a big deal. We'll see.
Moonhawk said Revelation 12:14, and that
where
and to the woman were given.
They're saying that the eagle's wings there is the U.S. because the United States symbol is the bald eagle. But like I point out, when Israel was brought out of Egypt by God, it states that they were born on eagle's wings, which is the same verbiage. So I think it's just God. I don't think we can say that's the United States there. So, but I talk about that more in other specific studies. We can certainly talk about it some more. It's on, if you're interested.
Yeah.
On BibleProphecyandTruth.com. I believe I talk about it on what is next, chapter 8. Would have been when we talked about that. The eagle's wings, yes. In the third section, the Great Tribulation of this, it's about halfway down this article. I talk about this in Exodus, where, you see what I did unto the Egyptians, how I bear you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. Same thing in Revelation 12:14, and went to the woman and were given 2 wings of a great eagle. It's very similar verbiage. I don't think that it's necessarily the United States. I think it's just God. Same thing he did in Exodus. So,
well, what does Revelation say about it?
Revelation 14
how is it put?
Or 12:14. What do you mean?
How is it? Oh, that's where it has there. And the women were given.
Yeah, that's in Revelation. Yeah.
I don't know what that has to do with the other one though. I don't know.
Well, people say that the 2 wings of a great eagle here in Revelation is the United States.
Yeah.
My argument is that there's very similar verbiage in Exodus, and it's just God. It's not any country. So I'm saying that this is just God, not a country.
Oh.
It
doesn't have any significance.
Right. And so that's my point, is we don't know. I mean, maybe the United States will play a significant role during the time of the Antichrist, because this is very specifically talking about the last 3.5 years during the reign of the Antichrist. And I don't think the United States is going to be a significant world power at that time.
I think we're going to be done with by the time that comes around.
Well, they're working on it big time right now. It's one of the things we're going to talk a little bit more about today.
Everyone wants to bring America down.
Yeah, Satan's working on it big time. So here's the thing. And now, why is this significant? And why am I bringing this up? The U.S. unites 30 plus nations in a global push against anti-Semitism. Now, if you've been with us for any length of time, you know that I'm always talking about how Satan is the one that has this hatred for Jews. And we know that. I mean, we know that from the Bible. Satan hates the Jews. We know that Satan is going to kill all the Jews that he can when the Antichrist is in power. He's going to use this man to wipe out as many Jews and Christians as he possibly can during his reign. Now, the fact that Satan is doing all these things, he has almost 2 billion Muslims like frothing at the mouth, right, with a hatred they can taste. Why do I say that? Because it's a hatred they're taught from childhood. They're taught this from the time they're little babies, to hate. They've got to hate the Jews and the Christians. I mean, that is we showed a video Wednesday on Muslims talking about how the Quran tells them, their religion tells them, Allah tells them to hate Jews and Christians. And, this is just what they're taught. It's in their doctrine. They are taught to hate us, and they're taught to hate Jews. And so Jews is the big push now. The propaganda coming from Islam, from Iran, from the PLO, all of the Islamic organizations are using all of the Western world's, politically correct stuff to gain ground. all the time. And they're pushing this gotta hate the Jews stuff like crazy.
Mhm.
They've got all kinds of people believing that the Jews are responsible for everything, so we've got to hate them. And we've talked about that a lot. The Jews really don't control much of anything. They can't seem to. If they control everything, they don't seem to be able to control much. They don't control the media. They don't control the UN. They don't control the International Criminal Courts. They don't control really much of anything. So the idea that they're the ones in power is kind of silly. But that's what the propaganda from Islam for the last few decades has done. It's convinced people that the Jews are responsible for it all. This is all from Satan. And they've actually convinced half of the rest of the world to hate Jews.
Mhm.
And Christians are right behind. If you notice that they're building this anti-white, anti-Christian rhetoric, that they're backing on Jew hatred now. It's you got to hate the Christians too. Well, this is exactly what Satan is doing. This is Satan doing what he's doing. He's trying to bring the West down. Now the reason I brought this up too is what if this does do something? What's going to happen when they sign the peace treaty? Satan's going to know that this is a biblical prophetic event, but he is going to be enraged because he is an evil creature that will just not be able to control himself. He's going to get so angry that he's just going to want to kill everything. And yeah, he knows it's coming, but why does he keep doing what he does, even though he knows that God's going to win in the end? He's insane.
Yeah.
He thinks that he is full of hatred. And this is why he wants everyone to hate. And that's why he has a religion that's based on hatred. Islam is a religion based on hating Jews and Christians. That's the basis of the religion.
And that's why the peace treaty is going to get ripped up.
Yeah, he's going to take over the world halfway through that. Oh, we just lost Diane. So she'll probably be back in a second. But that's what's going to happen halfway through the final week, that final 7 years. Halfway through that, the Antichrist is going to sit in the temple claiming to be God, and he's going to break that treaty, and he's going to start killing all the Jews. And this is what the Bible teaches us.
That's interesting. Moonhawk says, I'm sure Israel will be ready to sign a peace treaty with the Muslims when America is out of the picture.
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
you think?
But here's the thing, though, Moonhawk. I really don't think. See, the reason they can never sign a peace treaty, that we've had multiple presidents over the years trying to get this peace treaty signed, and neither side is agreeable to it, because Israel doesn't want to sign it, because why do they want to live next to people that want to kill them and just keep attacking them? And the Muslims don't want to sign it because they hate the Jews and they just want to annihilate them. They don't want to sign some peace treaty. They can never get it signed. And this is why I think, Moonhawk, I don't think that the Jews are going to happily sign this. I think the Jews are going to be forced into it.
Because
and so are the
Netanyahu
Palestinians.
is not giving up.
And they're going to do a two-state solution forcibly. Right? That it's not going to be something that both sides are happy with, but they're going to, world as a whole is going to come together. Remember, the Antichrist will be one of many that signs this peace treaty. And so I think it's going to be
Without
forced.
America to back up Israel, they'll definitely be forced.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They won't have us to the big brother standing there. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then, when he takes over the world, he's going to be full of rage. He's going to kill all the Jews. Remember, in Revelation 12 there, it also says how Satan's going to be cast to the earth having great wrath, because he knows his time is short for that last 3.5 years. So this is, he's going to kill all the Jews in the West Bank, in Matthew 24. And then Daniel 8, we see that after this peace treaty is signed, it's going to be about 8 months later. about 8 months after the treaty is signed is when the Antichrist is going to, quote, stand up. And he's going to begin gathering power. I think this is the moment he declares himself the Mahdi of Islam. Is 8 months after the peace treaty is signed, the Muslim Mahdi will come on the scene and will gain the support of 10 Islamic nations and will be the fourth beast of Daniel 7.
David said temple will probably be built during this 7 years, first 3.5.
It will probably be rebuilt in that first 8 months.
It's going to go up fast, I think.
It's one of the things I've pointed out that, like, I remember watching this 6th-floor big old parking garage being erected next to my workplace, and it went up, 6th-floor building went up in like 3 months. It was done. And it's because they bring in these huge sections and then just use cranes to put them in place, weld it all together, and then put in the next section. And they've got all of the blueprints are done. They've been done for years. They've got all the utensils. They've got everything they need. They're building the temple off site. When they have permission to build it, they're going to bring it all in like a Lego set, and they're going to put it together in a relatively short period of time and resume animal sacrifices. And so that's going to enrage the Muslims.
It will be ornate.
Oh.
It will be ornate.
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 Yeah. I'm sure they're going to have lots of gold, just like the original did.
I see.
But this is what the Bible tells us is going to happen. So, this happening is all, building the crescendo up to this. These things happening, and the Muslims being enraged, the Antichrist being coming into power, the Satan just being full of rage. The war hasn't happened yet. It happens about the same time the Antichrist comes into power. So I believe that's, I think the Antichrist might actually either be possessed or just, working with that Satan, working directly with him.
And he says she lost internet.
Ah, okay.
She said lost internet will be up in a minute.
Okay. Well, when we see
Yeah.
her come back, we'll bring her back in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I kind of bring this up, because this is all just building towards that event.
Yeah.
And then this is something, activists, these Hamas supporters are planning. They're planning to actually blockade the capital and try to impose a citizen's arrest of Netanyahu during his U.S. visit. And I can't imagine that it would actually happen, that they would be able to get away with it. But
Where is she?
Hello.
Show up in a second. Okay. I need to do this. There we go. So the reason I'm showing this to you is I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that they would have any chance to get at him at all. But after what just happened in the last week,
I know.
I am not so sure the Secret Service is going to stop anybody. So
There's
it's
things coming
worth
out every day
watching.
about that.
Especially since we know there's collusion going on with things. And that's one of the things
I
I'm going to show you here in a minute.
Nothing surprises me.
Mhm.
Y'all should
Oh,
watch
you're talking
the
about
book
the
of
guy that
Eli.
shot Trump?
Right. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute.
Yeah, he
There's-
said the book of Eli. That was an excellent movie.
Oh, yeah. It was cool.
Yeah.
Not really biblical, but it's a cool movie.
But it's very good. Yeah.
And then I had to show you this, because this is actually a sign in the UK where they put up a sign, "Don't walk your dogs here. Muslims don't like dogs." This is an Islamic area now, because remember, London is Londonistan. It's controlled by Muslims now, and the UK as a whole is falling. And here's the thing, I've been looking into the amount of demonic forces among Muslims. And it's really not surprising when you know that Islam is a religion of Satan, that it's not surprising that the majority of the evil spirits in the world are going to be working among the Muslims. And so when we see that dogs don't like Muslims, why do you think Muslims don't like dogs? Probably
They
because
eat
the
them.
dogs don't like them.
Moonhawk just said my dogs don't like Muslims either. I was like, well, ours don't either.
But my point is, there's a belief, whether it's true or not, is that animals can sense evil spirits.
Yeah.
So if
can
there's a
babies.
lot of evil demons around and among Muslims, of course, dogs are constantly going to be going nuts.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why
Duke would
dogs and Muslims don't get along, because there's so many
didn't know
demons
that.
among them. I mean,
Duke would probably run though, wouldn't he?
Duke would run, yeah,
He would run.
because Duke's a chicken.
Yeah, he's a chicken. He would run.
But when I saw this, I'm like, it just hit me. It's like, well, there's so many demons among them. Of course, dogs would not be happy
and
to be
babies
around
too.
them.
Don't you think babies sense evils?
I don't know
I
about
heard
that. I've
that.
never heard that before.
I did.
Dogs, yeah, but I don't know
That's
about
why babies will cry when somebody's around and stuff like that.
I don't know about that. But I mean, who knows? It's interesting to ponder anyway. And then the Trump shooter. Now, this is Fox News, and this is an FBI report.
Here you go, Moonhawk.
That he has 3 encrypted overseas bank accounts. So you're going to tell me some 20-year-old kid who's an assistant, what was he, an assistant nutritionist?
What?
He was basically
like
probably
that.
minimum wage job. 20-year-old kid. How does a 20-year-old kid with a minimum wage job have 3 encrypted overseas bank accounts?
Well,
Explain that to me, please.
I can.
I can explain it. He was paid to shoot Trump. And you know what's sad about this is here's this young kid who was deceived into thinking he'd actually live to enjoy this money he was given.
Yeah.
When they planned on killing him as soon as he did the job anyway. I'm sure.
Because
sure
then he couldn't rat. He couldn't rat anybody out.
They're not going to let him talk.
They're not going to.
So they paid him, deceived him, got him to do this, and planned on shooting him the moment it was over.
Yeah, like where did you see that they had overseas bank accounts?
This is Fox News.
Oh, they had it on the news.
The FBI had
Well, she's
this
going to testify
information.
tomorrow, the director.
of Secret Service. Yeah, we don't care about her. She was put in place by Biden's wife and probably has no place doing that job.
Yeah. Moonhawk. Yeah, that's what I said, Moonhawk. He said, poor kid, he's in hell now.
I know. I feel sorry for him in a way.
That's what we were talking about.
He's
lost.
I don't feel sorry for him because he is a murderer or attempted murderer and was going to kill someone in cold blood.
Kill somebody.
Well, and he did, but his intent was to murder someone. So I don't really feel sorry for him, but he was deceived. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, he was.
But he did it willingly for money.
He was gullible because he was young. They wanted somebody young.
And he probably thought he was going to be some hero of the left, Yeah, he's in hell now. Wishing that he could tell everyone where he's at and warn them, as the rich man in the parable that Jesus told.
Yeah.
So anyway, more on this because I've got a little video to show you in a little bit about where it actually shows a slow motion of a computer image of Trump's head and the position it was in when he started talking, and he turned it and he tilted his head
like that
just at the moment the bullet went by.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you that little video here in a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
but I read
amazing.
that kid was a bad shot anyway.
Now, if Trump hadn't tilted his head just in that moment, he'd be dead.
It would have shot him right.
It would have gone right through the head.
In his right eye,
The
it would have gone
the
right
kid
through
was
his
a really
eyeball.
good shot because he would have hit him had Trump
He had a
not tilted his
viewfinder.
head
He
right
was
at that
walking
moment.
around with a viewfinder.
So yeah, the rumors that he was a bad shot is kind of silly because he would have killed him if it hadn't just happened in that instant the way it did.
Yeah, I had
Trump would be
already
dead.
shot it when
He pulled
Trump
the trigger.
turned it like this.
Yeah. He pulled the trigger right when Trump tilted his head.
He goes.
Yeah.
Just like that.
So yeah, it was just the timing of it was absolutely flawless for it not to hit him.
Rangefinder.
A rangefinder.
Sorry,
yeah.
David. Yeah.
Yeah, he was not a bad shot.
Viewfinder.
It was just the timing and you know what it was. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit anyway. I got some more stuff.
A viewfinder is like one of those little kitty things, you know, like
rangefinder,
it's
so
a
you know
range
exactly
finder.
where to aim. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to talk about that a little
Bicep
more in a minute. But I wanted to bring this up where this, you know, this was at the Republican National Convention, the RNC, and saying American values are Jewish values. That is a crock of, you know what? No, they are not. American values do not match Jewish values. I'm sorry.
The Jews did not bring religion to America.
No. Rabbinic Judaism does not believe in our Lord Jesus Christ.
Right.
In fact, as Diane was pointing out when she's making this video, part 11, that Jews spit on Christians because they hate us, because they don't believe in Jesus.
No.
Yeah, in Israel, they had a video showing these little kids, Jewish kids, spitting on
Christians. And there's
cross.
Yeah. There's no such thing as Judeo-Christianity, as so many of these Christian leaders today are spouting this nonsense that there is a thing called Judeo-Christianity. Right. That is a contradiction in terms.
It is.
The
they're not Christians.
Judaism does not believe in Jesus. There's no such thing as Judeo-Christianity. Now, when you go read Romans 11, you know, read the whole book of Romans, but pay attention to Romans 11, where it talks about how it's only the Messianic Jews, it's the believing Jews, that are the tree of what is the real Israel today, the real descendant, the real heirs of the promise of Abraham are Messianic Jews, those that believe in Jesus. And we, as non-Jewish Christians, are grafted into that tree. That's what the Bible tells us.
So in Israel right now, there's Islam, there's Christianity, and then there's Jewish. And the Christianity is the Messianic Jews too? Yeah. Or is that like Catholics and Lutherans and all that stuff?
Well, when we talk about Messianic Jews, I'm not talking about Catholics.
Yeah.
Because Catholics are not Christians that they claim to be. They don't follow the Bible. They only follow a church, and they only obey the rules of Rome. They don't obey the Bible. They don't follow Jesus. I'm talking about those that really love Jesus. I'm talking about true Christians.
Yeah.
So there's lots, you know, it's part of the thousands of religions that Satan has created. You know, there's so many different sects. There's so many different types of, each religion even has so many different variations. And there's only one Jesus. There's only one Bible. There's only one God. There's only one truth. And that's the one that we follow.
Yeah.
But this is just another one of Satan's lying wonders. This idea of Judeo-Christianity is another way for Satan to confuse and obfuscate the truth and get everybody thinking about something besides the real truth. It's Satan, his lying wonders. It's just another one of the many, many lies that he has wrapped the world in darkness with.
Yeah. And Huck said amen. Moonhawk said, Jews aren't my problem. They'll have to stand before Jesus one of these days.
Absolutely.
David said they get downright mad at Christians.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're adamant. They killed our Lord. They killed their Messiah. They really did. But what we wish they would turn to Jesus and repent.
Yeah,
but
of course.
that's up to them.
Some Jews have.
All we
turned
can
to
do
Christ.
is tell the truth. And it doesn't matter who you are. I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you're a Jew or a Christian or churchian or a Catholic or a Muslim. I'm going to tell you the truth. If you don't listen, okay, I'm going to go find somebody who will listen.
But we've seen recovering Catholics,
Ex-Catholics.
ex-Catholics,
I know many
ex-Muslims,
ex-Catholics.
ex-Jews.
Yeah. So anyway,
Moonhawk
there
said
is no
Jesus
such
is the
thing.
best. Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
There is no Judeo-Christianity. That's just such a lie.
Yeah.
And then Turkey declares the hijab mandatory.
Yeah, I know.
We've talked a lot about, there's a lot of Muslims, especially women, that hate Islam. There's, the left, the mainstream media, the liars are trying to get us to believe that, it's really a personal choice of whether, Muslim women wear the hijab.
No.
Because they just love their religion so much. No, they absolutely hate it.
They want to be liberal.
And, this is, they're revolting in Muslim countries. I've told you about Iran, the revolution, but they're getting nowhere. And they're being jailed and killed trying to do these things because Islam, and, it's not changing things because, again, Islam is full of demons.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it even more difficult for anyone to change anything when Satan is in absolute control of their culture. Women who are raised Muslim but are not true believers, because remember, that's one of the three types of Muslims, right? Those that are raised in Islam know that they can't leave or their family will kill them, so they pretend to be a Muslim and they follow the rules, but they're not really believers. Well, this is many Muslims today in Muslim countries. They hate Islam, but they can't escape. So they pretend to be Muslim because they have no choice or die, be persecuted. So it's, but Turkey is showing that there is no personal choice here. This is a commandment of their God, lowercase g, because it's Satan. It's a false God. So wanted to point that out.
Moonhawk says Jesus is the best. David says Satan is the pest.
That's right. Jesus is king.
And Moonhawk said Jew-ish.
Jesus is the King of Kings and the God of the world.
I know these two.
Satan is in temporary control, but he is an evil pest. Yes.
Where's Jay?
So
we need him.
So
The Three Musketeers.
Kamala Harris's husband at the where else? The World Economic Forum. Gee.
Yeah,
I wonder if they're one of them. There will be an Islamophobia plan soon, making sure we fight hate wherever it exists. Now, wait a minute. An Islamophobe is a non-Muslim who knows more about Islam than they're supposed to. So we gotta fight that. We gotta make sure nobody really understands Islam, is what they're really saying here.
No.
But as I point out, Satan is using all of these people. He really is.
Yeah, they're all
This
deceived.
is Satan. Satan has these people so deceived. You think it's all you think of all the people out there that are so deceived by this strong delusion from God,
Mhm.
and the lying wonders of Satan. And, they're delusional. They're so deceived. But it's not just them. It's these people. It's these people right here that are deceived by Satan.
They're just bringing
They're-
a lot of people down.
They're
with them.
so deceived that they think that he's their God, that he's going to give them what he's promised them, even though he's going to stab them in the back when he's done using them.
Mhm.
He hates
Yep.
them. Their God doesn't love them. Their
See-
God hates them.
You see how all this is lining up? Her husband, and now she's going to be the one running for president, and her
Yeah.
husband is at the WEF.
Oh,
And
People
the sad
put the
thing
pieces
is,
together.
oh.
and the sad thing is these people that think that Islam is peaceful and loving. When they do wake up and realize the truth, it'll be too late.
David said,
Yeah.
it's hard to bring myself
Absolutely.
to witness to them. God help me. I know, but I don't. How do you witness
Well,
to?
so what I do, David, is I don't go seeking them out.
No.
I mean, I don't really seek anyone out. We've gone door knocking around our neighborhood, things like that. I talk to people when we're out and about at the grocery store, but I don't go seeking out any particular group of people. That's why I really like the way my website works, because people have to actually search for the data. They have to be
Right.
searching for stuff on my website. If they're looking for the truth, that's when I want to talk to them. If they don't care, then, I mean, I get lots and lots and lots of Muslims that just start arguing with me and screaming at me. But I don't really spend a whole lot of time on them. I'll try to reason with them, show them how their beliefs are actually kind of ridiculous beliefs. How their beliefs in Jesus. They say Jesus was a prophet, but what Jesus said would make him a liar according to their beliefs. So, when I start saying things like that, they get mad and they start turning the attack against me personally. And that's when they say, okay, bye-bye.
Said fisher of men.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Exactly.
true, but
Exactly.
can't
And
beat people over the head
yeah.
with it anyway, because if
Yeah.
you
Well,
go to them, they don't want to listen.
but remember, how do you fish? You throw the bait out, right? You cast
That's
the
how
bait. And when they bite, that's when you talk to them.
Right.
And you don't go and
Right.
try to just talk to people that hate God or hate Jesus and you won't, if they won't listen, then you just move on.
Yeah, he said, dust off your feet.
Exactly.
Enoch said Jesus is much more than a prophet. Yeah.
Well, he's God
God.
himself manifest in the flesh. He's how God became part of his own physical
That's how they
creation
think, though.
by
That's how
becoming a
most-
man in Jesus. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
way more than just a prophet. Yeah.
Yeah, the Muslims don't even believe that they said that they put him on a cross. I've heard one Muslim said they put him on a cross, but he never went to heaven. He just died.
Right. That's what they say.
Yeah.
They say he was a true prophet who died 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Yeah.
Yeah, but he
Yeah,
never
so they
went to
know
heaven.
they know who Jesus was, but they don't know the truth.
Well, they say they know who Jesus was, but they obviously
Yeah.
Well,
don't.
they know that
Right.
he existed, but they
Yeah.
don't believe that he was literally God in the flesh. So.
Right. And they don't believe that he died and rose again. They don't believe he was the Son of God.
Well, they believe he died,
And-
but that he just died. They hung him up on a cross, but that was that for him.
Exactly. That's what they say.
Yeah, that's what
And they say that the Bible is corrupt, and it was all made up. Which is kind of funny because, that people that say that, they say it was the Jews that did that. So why did the Jews condemn themselves if they were making all these stories up? It's kind of like, it's kind of silly what they believe. Anyway, Arabs suffering in other areas other than Gaza get no attention. Because there's plenty of Arab atrocities that are happening around the world that gets no news at all, because you can't blame the Jews for that. So all they talk about is Gaza, even though it's the Muslims causing suffering on their own Muslims. But they can blame the Jews for it because they're in the area. And then the Taliban blaming Afghanistan's problem on global warming. Do they know how to play the game or what? Really? They're blaming their problems on global warming. No, this is a ploy to get us to give them more money so they can fight global warming. Are we really that much of a sucker? Where they can just say this and we'll just give you millions of dollars then. Really? Are we really that stupid? Oh, it's mind-boggling. But knowing Satan's behind all this, and it's really the grand delusion, the lying wonders of Satan, and then God himself causing a strong delusion that people would believe those lying wonders because they have pleasure in unrighteousness and they don't love the truth. So God causes them to be as deluded as they are today. And then the Biden administration might be funding the Taliban. Oh, really? This is not new. It's not just Biden. They've been doing this for a long time. Yeah. But Biden here gives them $293 million. $293 million goes to Afghanistan with no oversight whatsoever. Now tell me who runs Afghanistan after we left? After we pulled out completely?
Muslims.
Yeah, Islam. Muslims. Yeah. So the Taliban got it all.
Things changed drastically.
Yeah, it's gone back to a full-fledged Muslim nation.
Women cannot go to college.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gone back. So, yeah, duh. The Taliban's getting it all. And what are they doing with it? Buying weapons, training, recruiting.
Moonhawk said, I see the vaccines and wars among the white nations as means to weaken them for a further Islamic invasion.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. This is Satan's plan, is to bring the West down.
ISIS, yeah.
To bring the Western powers down so that he can take over the world with Islam, with his Muslim Antichrist. Absolutely. That is what Satan is busy doing right now.
Moonhawk said Jesus
they're recruiting young girls that are online. I don't know how they're getting these websites. These girls are 15, 16 years old are talking to these Muslim guys who make it make ISIS
glamorous.
I know. And they get them to go there and then they become their sex slave. Yeah.
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 Moonhawk said Jesus was around before the earth was made.
Well, God was, yeah. God was the creator, the Spirit of God, which is in Jesus. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then California banned schools from outing students to their parents. So basically, school teachers cannot inform parents about their children doing things,
sexual orientation,
to change their sex or anything like that. The school cannot inform the parents.
Jeez. Oh,
can't.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, I think that parents that have any kind of a brain need to get their kids out of these schools.
Yeah.
They really do. They need to. If you can't leave California, get them out of the school system.
If you're a parent that has school-age children, do whatever you can to homeschool and get them out of that. The world is teaching our children such evil. But I just point out the California dictator, Newsom, he's, God forbid he runs for president and they actually cheat enough to get him in power. Oh boy, would this country go. I mean, we're already off the cliff. But he'd be putting a rocket behind it to speed us to the bottom of the chasm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moonhawk said Jesus was in the Garden of Eden, the Lord God.
Well, that was the angelic The word in John 1, by the way, means divine expression. It's the expressing of God himself into his creation. In the Garden of Eden, it was an angelic form, just like it was when God showed himself to Abraham, and many other times when he appeared in the form of a man, along with a couple of angels that were also in the form of a man. It was just an angelic form. He became part of his own creation when he was born into it in Jesus Christ. Absolutely. So,
what is that?
So
It looks like
I'm going to
something.
show you this quick video here. It's like
JFK
3 minutes long.
Oh.
Does it have the hallmarks of a CIA operation? Well, just like I pointed out, how does this 20-year-old kid from Pennsylvania have overseas bank accounts? You know, I'm just gonna play this. It's like 3 minutes long.
Okay.
Good evening, and welcome to Fine Point, where no narrative is sacred, no media hoax is safe, and we zero in on the big picture. I'm your host, Chanel Vian. Every cop, prosecutor, and judge knows that when someone keeps changing their story, it's because they're lying. First, they tell us he's a lone wolf. Then, he's a Trump supporter. Now, the Iranians are in on it. They keep changing the story. Not because they don't know, but because they're guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Zapruder is the reason most Americans believe the JFK assassination was an inside job. Mr. Zapruder, a mere bystander, stood on the grassy knoll in Dallas, Texas, and his amateur film of the presidential motorcade in 1963 is the only clear video we have showing JFK's assassination. Our government immediately told us it was a lone gunman. Over time, this story made no sense. And it was Zapruder's film that cast planet-sized doubts upon the fantasy that one man, Lee Harvey Oswald, shot and killed the president from his high perch atop the schoolbook depository. Most Americans don't believe this because the laws of physics just don't mesh with the government story. 60 years later, in this day and age, it's more difficult to pull off a JFK-style assassination plot while feeding the public a cover story. It's very difficult because today, everyone has a camera. Everyone is Zapruder. If a public assassination of a public figure were to take place, there will likely be dozens of angles on it, all recorded, all uploaded on X within seconds. Warren Commission shenanigans be damned. But that doesn't mean our federal government won't try. So let's go down this road, shall we? Does the Trump assassination attempt have the hallmarks of a CIA operation? Is the CIA now 0 for 3 after the failed coup against the Democratic Republic of Congo in May, the failed Bolivian coup in June, and now the failed coup against President Trump in July? May, June, July. Has it been a rough summer for the boys at Langley? Right now, we as a nation are going through the motions of rejecting the narrative fed to us by the FBI and our lying federal government. Now, 4 days after the attempted assassination of President Trump, the narrative is still this: an awkward kid suddenly transformed into Jason Bourne and single-handedly outfoxed the entire U.S. Secret Service, state police, and FBI on foot with a ladder under one arm and a rifle under the other.
I know.
Yes.
And they still can't get into his phone, apparently. And you've asked yourself by now, why does this narrative feel so restless? It's like an overdue pregnant woman who can't find a comfortable spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People know. People are
It's
not
like,
dumb. They know.
Are we stupid? Do you really think? But remember, when you look, when we look at who is
Born
they,
identity.
if you haven't seen my Who Is They article, check it out, because I talk about this. So they really think that we are so stupid that they can just tell us anything and we'll just believe it. They really think that we are that stupid.
People do, though.
Watch his phone disappear.
About 30%. What's amazing to me is about 30% still believe their lies.
Wow. I know.
That's
they
amazing
do.
to me. 30% still believe those lies. But you know, it's the lying wonders of Satan, and it's the grand delusion from God. So that's the reason why I'm befuddled. How could 30% people be that dumb? But it's because it's a God-driven delusion.
And they're
Because
so
they hate
I'm
him.
surprised.
hateful.
I'm really surprised that somebody with their camera. I mean, they see him lay down on the roof.
They were telling
I
the
was
police.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that people weren't going, shoot her.
They were.
They
They
were.
were. They were
They
saying
were-
there's somebody up on the roof.
They were trying to flag down
For a half
the
an
Secret
hour.
Service, and they were ignoring them.
for 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh.
seriously, there's
30 minutes.
there's several
Yes.
people that have witnessed that. People saw him walking around with a gun. They saw him climbing the building with a
had a
gun
ladder.
over his shoulder. You know,
Yeah.
And a backpack.
and it's just crazy. If you think that this was just a lone wolf
And he
that
just was
just
a poor
walked in
shot.
there by himself amidst all of the cops and the Secret Service and actually got away with shooting Trump, wow. Maybe you should think again if you really think that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm moving
As
on
we
now.
got kicked off of YouTube.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, you know, when I played that video, that could get us kicked off of YouTube. But you know what?
Make sure
I
you have a
have to-
Rumble account.
Yeah. Or go to videos.prophecyandtruth.com and
Yeah.
sign up for notifications there and watch the videos there, because that will be there much longer than YouTube channel will be. Anyway,
Mhm.
and then everybody knows about the cyber security firm, the outage that just happened over the internet. And it wasn't the whole internet, remember, it was just some of it. But it was a large swath of internet, and it was Windows-based computers that this CrowdStrike is a cybersecurity firm, that pushed an update out, and well, it broke stuff. So a lot of computers were
Crashed.
getting the blue screen of death, and so the problem is they went back and removed that, but a lot of the updates are still on computers. It could be weeks before everything's back up and running, because all the computers have to be fixed that got this update. So
Might have to
I mean,
wait
there
for
were-
that Amazon.
there were global shipping, airlines, banking, medical,
hospitals. Yeah.
surgeries, procedures, all kind,
Right down to
everything.
coffee shops.
Yeah, going down.
Yeah.
I mean, surgeries had to be rescheduled. Cargo is just sitting there waiting for them to figure out where it is and move it. There's just so much that happened. And, this cybersecurity firm, CrowdStrike, sorry, try to speak, Dan. CrowdStrike, it's right on the screen there. They were reportedly, now this conspiracy theory,
Here we
they
go.
were reportedly involved with the Trump-Russia hoax. Is it a conspiracy theory, or was it a DEI issue, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion means hiring people that can't do the job just because of their skin color.
I don't think so.
And that's actually causing a lot of problems
I know,
in
but I don't
industry.
think
But
so.
is that the case here? I don't
This was on
think so.
purpose.
I think maybe this was some kind of test. Could it have been? I don't know. Conspiracy theory, yeah.
I
Okay.
think so. I saw another problem with the plane today too.
Yeah. Because you're working on that stuff, yeah. And then
I
one thing,
pulled up the news and just boom, there it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all
Mhm.
kinds of problems with
Mhm.
aircraft these days, yeah. But I wanted to point this
Secret
out,
Service, yeah.
because Microsoft always seems to just slide under the radar. Nobody ever looks at Microsoft. Nobody ever points their finger at Microsoft. Why not?
Mhm.
Do you think Bill Gates is not one of them?
That was an evil
Did you-
laugh.
I mean, seriously,
Wow.
people. Microsoft is pushing updates to our computers constantly. What are they really doing?
My computer updates like every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's constantly
Yeah.
updating.
Why?
Do we really think that Microsoft is not involved in any of this?
Oh, yes.
Everybody thinks
I mean,
that we're
I'm
conspiracy
working on.
It was probably a test.
I have.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have Linux machines, and I'm working on just moving all of our computers off of Microsoft and using Linux only, because I know Microsoft's involved in all this stuff, and they're so under the radar. That makes me very suspicious that they're very guilty, and they're just really good at hiding their tracks.
Well, for right now, but everybody who's anybody knows what's going on. We're putting all the pieces together. We've been doing that for a
Yeah.
long time. For
Yeah.
4 years, we've been putting these pieces together, and we've wised
Yeah.
up, and now we're Trump strong.
You just had to get that in.
I just
there.
had to get that in there.
Well, and you know what? I'm going to show you this video here and I'm going to talk about that very thing
Oh,
because
no.
I'm going to say this right off the bat. I like Trump. I think Trump, in a worldly sense, is a nice guy. He's a
nice-
good man in the eyes of the world.
Yeah, he is. He
But
really
that's
is.
the world's eyes, right? I think he's the best choice for our president, for this country. I think he's the
To
best
have any-
best choice for our survival. I really do. But is Trump a godly man? What has he ever done for God that we know of? I don't know. I mean, he gives a lot to charity. He's a very giving,
not for
generous
God.
man. What does he do for Jesus Christ? Nothing that I've ever seen. And so
Well,
is
for
he a
now.
godly man? I cringe at that.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you this video, which is, most of us have probably already seen it, but this shows the exact moment that Trump tilted his head. He
Like
looked
he does.
to the right,
He
he
goes like
tilted his
this.
head, and the bullet went whizzing by right at that
Well,
very
they
instant.
said that it took off the top of his ear.
Yeah, it hit him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is the
Right.
damage is that the ear.
Right.
He
And they
lost
couldn't
part of his
fix
ear.
it because it was a
We
you know,
shall see if he
couple
claims-
millimeters
During the
wide.
convention,
Exactly,
he was
David.
he was reading a story. He was so dramatic about blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They couldn't
So what
figure
did
out.
David say?
David said, "We shall see if he claims Jesus." Well, I know
Yeah.
I agree with you, and I know that at the RNC, he in his speech he said that the
That it was
God
God.
Almighty saved his life.
So
But
so-
that's not the same thing.
so
and we know
saying
that.
God and saying Jesus is not
is
the
two
same thing
different
today.
things.
You can say
Well-
God and be a Muslim.
I know.
You can say God and be a Catholic. But Catholics don't believe in the same Jesus I do.
Right.
Seriously.
Right.
They don't believe in salvation the way that Jesus taught.
Yeah.
Well, let's watch this video because this is really, really interesting.
Mhm. As we get kicked off. No,
I'm gonna wait
I
for it
don't
to
think
load
I'm
up
that
here.
The
so
sound is
everything
off.
goes down.
No, I don't want any of whatever it is.
Oh,
Okay,
right
this
at
is
the-
it right here. So let me get rid of. Where's the X? All right, I'm just gonna play this one.
Take a look what happened.
See how he how he tilts his head?
Yeah, that
Oh my
was
gosh, I
so
can't even watch
Just-
it.
Take a look what happened.
tilted his head and the
Yes.
bullet went flying by. Just in that moment. So now my point in all this, when I'm talking about him and whether or not he's a godly
watch
man. Now he claimed that it was God. And I'm here to say, yeah, I believe it was God.
But there's
but-
a for a purpose.
But is Trump a man of God?
No.
I don't believe
I don't see that.
I hope
in
that
his
I
life
see it.
at all.
You will know them by their fruits. I don't see his fruits.
Right. What fruit does he have? What
Yeah.
fruit has he borne for Christ? When
I
does he ever
think
talk about
God-
Jesus? I never heard him talk about Jesus.
I
No.
think God had his hand in it only because it's to fulfill his prophecy.
Right. And that's my point. When I talked about this Wednesday, I was talking about, remember, Pharaoh and Nebuchadnezzar in the Old Testament. Now, God used Pharaoh. God told Moses before he even did anything, I'm going to make him do what I want him to do. And so
Yeah.
when Moses went to Pharaoh, initially Pharaoh just said no, 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 no. And then when things got really bad for Egypt, it says that God actually seized his mind and made him say no, so
Yeah.
that he could show all the nations of the world his power.
Yeah, because
Through
he was going to
Pharaoh.
let him. He was going to let them go, and God said, "Nope, not yet."
Well, it got so bad, yeah.
Right.
But that was God using a king, the Pharaoh, but Pharaoh wasn't a godly man. Same with Nebuchadnezzar. God
Mhm.
even did things with Nebuchadnezzar. God sent Nebuchadnezzar into the wild as a raving lunatic for years to teach him a lesson, but he made him king. But Nebuchadnezzar was not a godly man. And that's my point. God uses kings. He sets up kings. He is responsible for putting up kings and taking down kings. But it doesn't mean they're
I
godly.
know.
It doesn't mean that they're doing his will. It just means that God is doing what he wants.
Yeah. Yeah. The guys.
Yeah, God didn't spare Trump because he loves Trump and wants to do something good for him.
Well, we don't know. I mean, if Trump were to repent, if this were to cause him to actually fall to his knees before God and repent
That would be awesome.
and become a godly man, and you would hear him start talking about Jesus and how
Yeah.
God transformed his life. I haven't seen that, but that would be great.
Yeah. Like David said, he could not say he confessed his sin or say he repented. Correct. He said he has stated Jesus. He has also said other bad things though. Moonhawk said all of his children are married to Jewish spouses. Right, Ivanka is. I know that.
And so, but that's the thing is,
assassination attempt.
and
as
he
well.
even goes to a Christian church and has
Where?
this
I didn't think
prophetess as his
Oh, I didn't know
pastor.
that.
But
I didn't know that.
you know well, and then he visits churches wherever he's at.
Like
you
that.
know,
He went to
Christian
that one church
churches.
in Michigan and
Right.
went there for his birthday and
He
asked
went
for
to the
prayer.
hood and went to church there. Yeah.
And-
So, is God calling him? Possibly.
Maybe.
Is he a man of God? That is what I call into question. And I'm not saying that he is. And I'm not saying that he isn't. What I see is I don't see any fruit. I don't see any evidence
We need to pray for him.
that he really loves Jesus. He claims to be a Christian. He may have said something about Jesus once or twice. He's even had his pastor on stage with him in certain events. But is he a godly man? I see no evidence of it. And that's my point.
Yeah.
No.
Is God going to use him?
Maybe.
Probably. So will there be an election? Right? And the thing I want to point out is, a lot of people say, well, Trump's a good man.
Yeah.
Well, in a worldly sense, yes.
Yes.
But the Bible also tells us that good men don't go to heaven.
That's right.
Repentant, obedient men go to heaven.
Humble men.
Not good men in the eyes of the world.
Right.
It means nothing to God.
Yeah.
So will there be an election? Remains to be seen. They're gonna pull out all the stops.
Yeah.
That they're gonna do everything and anything they can to stop this from happening. Now, if God wants him to win, guess what? He's gonna win.
Yeah.
And if Trump wins, will he finish the Abraham Accords that he started in his first term? We'll see. I believe,
Never know.
I still believe that it's very likely
Yeah.
that 2025 will be the signing of the confirmation of the covenant. The signing of the peace treaty will happen in 2025 during the fall feasts. And that will begin the final 7 years. Now, this is a wildly speculative guess. So I'm not prophesying. I'm just saying I really think it's really could happen next year. You know, like maybe 14, 15 months from now, we could see this happen.
So we're all on here going, yeah, but he's full of pride and he's
Right.
you know, he's full of pride and he seems to love his status more. But then I said, but I still like him, and they all go, yeah, me too.
Well, and that's the thing. In a worldly sense,
I do.
he's the best choice for president.
Right.
I just, yeah.
In a godly,
he's patriotic.
in the reality of things, in the godly sense, is he a man of God? I don't see it.
You know,
But
if he,
I still like him as a man. I think he is a good man in the worldly sense. I think he's the nicest person. Everything I've ever seen about him is that he's been very giving, very generous, very, you know, just such a nice person.
well, I think he's done some not so nice things in his past and everything.
Well, who hasn't?
And who hasn't? But at the same time, I feel like he's good to like the common folk.
Right.
And he's good to his
He
employees.
likes the regular people.
And
He's
likes
a good man in that
the
sense.
forgotten man. That's what they say about Trump, is that he
So that's-
cares about the forgotten
During
man.
a national convention, he did bring up the two people that were also shot. The one that was
Right.
I know.
He choked up about
Corey,
it, actually.
good businessman.
And
Yeah, he
that's-
is a good businessman.
And that's,
It's
you
just
know,
good for the country.
in that sense, I like him.
Mhm.
But
yeah.
but that's only in a worldly sense.
Mhm.
And that's, you
So
know,
let's
so many
pray for
people.
him.
And here's the thing I'm bringing all this up for is I'm delivering a warning. Too many people get on this bandwagon where they're almost worshiping this man.
Yeah.
That you need to get away from. You need to shy away from that, thinking too highly of a man who's just a man.
He is just a man.
God is who we worship.
Right.
And if he were a godly man, I would like him a whole lot more.
But we still shouldn't worship him.
Right. And that's the
We only
problem.
like Trump because
Is he's becoming a worship, an icon of worship almost to people. And we need to
like
be
at the
careful of that.
convention, everybody was like going crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people do that at football games too.
Right.
Moonhawk says we only like Trump because his opposition is so wicked, and that's, I mean,
The alternate
look,
choice.
if we look up against other conservative people that were running for president, I still picked him.
Yeah.
Because
And
I know
here's- You know, I have to agree with that a lot, though, because, you know, before I was a Christian, way back when I was a young adult, I hated the establishment. I hated the corruption, the machine, and how wicked it was. Now that I'm a Christian, I hate it even more. I know that Satan's behind it, that these wicked men are just evil, vile creatures. And I've always thought it's just the lesser of two evils, whoever you vote for, right? Well, I'm going to pick the lesser of two evils. But I really don't see it that way with Trump. Trump is not an evil man. He's not. He's an evil man as far as he's a sinner like the rest of us. But in a worldly sense, he is not an evil man. He's not a career politician. He's not there to get rich off of us and to exercise his, you know, he may be liking it because of the power that it gives him. And he may, you know, his pride in that. But I don't see it as so much of a lesser of two evils in this, because the other side is so evil compared to this man is actually a good man in a worldly sense. So I see it very differently here.
I see Trump as our country. What can you do for our country? What can you do? You can give me cheaper gas, cheaper groceries. You can help out veterans, build up our military. That's how I see Trump. I see Trump as what can you do for our country? I don't see him like, oh, I want him to come over for dinner. That's not how I see him. I just want cheap gas.
And that's what, as far as this country, I want to be able to continue to serve God without fear of them coming and kicking down my door and taking me to jail or killing me or whatever. I would like to see this country not follow the rest of the world so quickly. And so I would love to see Trump in 4 years, because that would mean we'd have a little bit of a buffer zone.
Just a little bit of a buffer. But I don't want to be New York. I'm sorry. I don't want to be New York. I don't want to be California, Michigan, Minnesota.
And we're going, I'm not going to have much time at all. I got to get moving here. So government in Germany shut down a dissident magazine, by the way, if you haven't seen that. I mean, 1984 is here. Yeah. This is Gestapo style raid of a publisher's home. All he's doing is publishing a magazine. They go and arrest him. This is dictatorship going on here in Germany.
Yeah.
And then Islam will rule the world. And there's the imam here. We must prepare ourselves to run the world. I don't believe America can be saved unless we save it.
Is that an actual video?
It's a video. I don't have a link though, but it is a video, yeah. And this is the mindset of Islam. Their prophecy says they're going to rule the world. Satan has set up the prophecies in Islam. They're going to rule the world. When Satan succeeds in destroying the West, Islam will rise. And the Antichrist will take over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Yusuf.
Hey, Yusuf. Good to see you, brother. So then, again, Muslim countries are refusing the Palestinian refugees. So, I mean, think about this. Why are they doing this? Because they want all those refugees to go to the West to destroy us. And they don't want them in their country. Like they don't want to deal with them. They don't love them. No. They want them to go and do what's best for Islam, to go and infiltrate. And then, a third of the Democrats believe that Trump actually staged this assassination.
Yeah. That he had those packets.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Who would have somebody shoot at my head and get close enough to hit me, but don't kill me? I mean, really?
I'm just going to tilt like this and turn my head, and right when I do that, then shoot.
Nobody would say shoot at my head to make it look like you're trying to kill me. Nobody would do that. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's
like standing.
That is so ridiculous.
Somebody throw darts at you or something.
So let's switch gears here now. I'm not going to have time. I'm not going to have time to go to the where we're going to drop YouTube, because I'm going to switch over now to our study of chapter 22 of, we've studied for the new people. We've studied through all of the chapters of my book / website, which is really just my notes as I've studied. I wrote all this so that I could share what I've learned over the years with everyone. And I've turned my notes into readable chapters.
Wait, Moonhawk just has one question. Is America to be the sacrificial lamb?
Well, I'm going to say no. Because is America even a godly country?
No.
No.
It's like Noah, or
no.
The days of Noah and Lot.
So, yeah, no. Will America be strong in the end? I doubt it. I think Satan's going to succeed in destroying our power and our wealth. So we'll see how that plays out.
Mine too, Yusuf. He said, Jesus is my lamb.
Yes.
The King of Judah.
Yeah. So we've gone through biblical prophecy, we've gone through biblical truth, and we're now studying creation versus evolution. And how old is the earth is a very, very good one. We're going to be here for another half an hour. talking about this, because this is just absolutely astounding. When you look at what they say, and just look at what they're saying about global warming, just look at what they said about this supposed thing that was going to kill everyone that wasn't even dangerous over the last 4 years. Look at what they did over the last 4 years. And then think about what they say about evolution. Understand that Satan is behind all of this, because Satan doesn't want us to believe the Bible. And then think about it in that mind frame. If you're a Christian, think about it in that, because I know there's a lot of Christians that think evolution actually fits into the Bible, which I'm going to show you here in a couple of, what does the Bible say about creation? Next week, we're going to talk about that. But is the earth really billions of years old? So here's some of the things they use to prove to us how old it is, right? Stalactites and stalagmites, the columns that form from the ceiling and the floors and caves, and then they eventually come together and form a pillar. These are the things they say takes millions of years to form. Well, this thing here formed in 100 years. 100 years from a water pipe that was left running.
Yeah.
100 years. Yeah, 100 years. They're in man-made tunnels all over the world. There's stalactites and stalagmites forming already.
And they form because of minerals and stuff, don't they?
Yeah, it's what is it? It's the precipitation, deposition of calcium carbonate and other minerals, which is precipitated from mineralized water solution. So it's water that drips, and it creates the column through the deposition of calcium carbonate and other minerals that create those columns. Yeah, it's just water dripping. Yeah. The Grand Canyon was supposedly took millions of years to be carved. I'm going to just show you this one picture. Tell me how a rushing, raging river does a 180.
Mm-hmm.
How does a rushing, raging river that's carving this gorge over millions of years do a 180? That's the dumbest thing in the world. What happened is a large amount of water caused this gouge and created these gorges and all of the layers and everything, and took out massive amounts of water. And then because it carved this, the river flows along the bottom of it. That's what really happened. I'm inviting anyone that's watching this to actually go and look at this article. It's Creation versus Evolution on BibleProphecyandTruth.com, and chapter 22. And really, because I'm not going to take the time necessary to really go into great detail, which I wish we had time for, but I'm not going to push this over 2 hours. I know that people hang with us, but I know that 2 hours is a long.
That's a long podcast.
So I'm encouraging anyone watching this to actually take the time to go and do this research. Go and look at this stuff and research it for yourself. Don't take my word for it, but don't believe the establishment either, because we know what they do. They lie to us. And this is a lie. This is something that if you're a scientist and you don't go along with the status quo, guess what? They're going to subtly push you out. You will get no funds, no fellowships, and they'll push you into obscurity, and you will have nothing as a scientist. And that's why they all go along with it, because they want to keep their job. It's crazy. The geologic column. Where in the world can it be found? Because if you actually do the research, you find that it doesn't exist in this order all over the earth. Which, if it were true that all of these are time, millions of years of time, it would be uniform over all the earth, would it not? But the column is actually in different orders in different parts of the world. They're actually in a different order in some places. There no single area on Earth contains a record of all geologic time. It's a farce. It's a lie. It's another one of the lies. And then polystrate trees are another thing that when I first learned about this, I'm like, oh wow, how could anybody possibly believe that a tree could sit there at an angle over millions of years as the stratum built up around it?
Yeah.
Like, wait, how dumb do you have to be to believe that? But it's the same thing. It's like we talked about Wednesday. Evolution is a religion. It's a belief. And it's primarily because people don't want to believe in God. So you make up all kinds of, when I was an atheist, I made up all kinds of excuses for everything that was ludicrous about this and just tried to make it all fit. And I would even argue with you about it. Even though I didn't care enough back then to really argue about it. I just chose to believe it because I didn't want to believe in God. But I wasn't adamant about how wonderful it was or try to prove it. I just tried to make it fit in my mind somehow so that I could deny God.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually look at the facts, it's like this is impossible for a tree to have stood there for millions of years. I mean, seriously, it's like so silly. Millions of years. This is 1 meter. So this is millions of years according to evolution. This tree stood there for millions of years. That is the dumbest thing in the world. And then diatoms. Diatoms are microscopic life forms that accumulate on the floor of bodies of water. And they accumulate on the average about 1 inch per 1,000 years as they die and float to the bottom. It accumulates. So diatoms are something they use to determine the age of things found. Well, tell me how a whale found in Lompoc, California, completely surrounded by diatoms, how did it stand on its tail for thousands of years as diatoms collected around it?
Yeah, you'd think it would just eat away.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
impossible. It would have rotted away, have been eaten by other fish. It would have
Oh,
rotted
yeah.
away. It would have deteriorated. There's just so many things. You know why there's diatoms built up around that? Because the diatoms were already there. And when the flood happened, it washed things around and it clumped around this whale and caused it to stand on its tail surrounded by the diatoms. That's what happened. They've also found buried forests 200 feet below ground. Now, how do you get a forest 200 feet below ground? How does that happen if the earth has been building up for millions of years? All the trees would have died and created those layers, and there wouldn't be
After
any
a million
trees
years?
underneath
Yeah.
at all. And they've never found a meteorite below the top layer, which is, if it's been building up for centuries, then why don't we find meteorites below the top layer?
Mm-hmm.
Got some articles. I mean, I'm showing you some of these things, failed to turn up a single case of a meteorite being found in the geologic column. There's just all kinds of evidence. Here's the buried forests, 200 feet below ground.
How does it not deteriorate after 1,000 years?
Well, because they've actually, the thing you have to think about is when we look at petrification, when things become fossilized, that's, if it's laying on the surface exposed to the elements, it rarely happens. it's when it's buried and exposed to, especially like certain kinds of, just the specific water composition around it. If it's buried and there's just the right amount of moisture, it can actually become
Preserved.
a fossil in as little as a couple of years.
Yeah.
They've found things, modern material that
Like
has
boots?
fossilized, boots, axes, modern mining equipment that has fossilized since the mine was created. I've got some things.
It's the right temperature.
Oh, here's.
And that, like the
also-
trees and stuff, the trees, if you were to take them and cut them, they wouldn't be like wood anymore.
No, they'd be fossilized.
Yeah, they've turned like to rock.
Yeah.
And there, I've got it later. I don't have it on this one, it looks like, but actually later in a later article, I show where there's like a plum that was left in a refrigerator actually turned to rock in a year. 1 year, not thousands or millions or billions of years. 1 year.
I think I'm going to try that.
It has to be the right conditions. So.
Keep it in the refrigerator or in the freezer.
I don't think it will in the freezer.
No.
I'd have to research the exact conditions you'd need to simulate. But here's an article about, they found a 90-foot plum tree in the Arctic with ripe fruit, green leaves, and even supposedly a saber-toothed tiger in the tree, all frozen solid under the ice. Tell me how that happens without a catastrophic event causing it. And we're going to talk about the ice in a later article too, where how is it that things froze solid? You'd have to have temperatures at like 300 degrees below zero for an animal to freeze solid while in stride, chewing on its food without falling over and dying first. No, they froze solid on their feet. It takes very, very cold temperatures for that to happen. And I'm going to talk about how that happened in a later article. And one thing about jellyfish is they're almost 100% water. So to get a fossil of a jellyfish means very extreme conditions. For these jellyfish fossil graveyards, it had to have been something that happened very fast, or they would just melt away to nothing.
Yeah, Moonhawk says that he's seen flowers last years when you put them in photo albums.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then here's one thing that I did the math on this because I'm one of those people that I got to do the math. I got to see if this is accurate or not if I read about something. Now, if you've never heard about it, this is too little to read. If you've never heard about it, it's the what do they call it? The leap second, where the Earth's rotation is actually slowing down.
Oh, I remember you talking about
this. And it's, a half a second a year or a second a year or so. The Earth's rotation takes that much longer to complete a complete rotation. It's slowing down. So if we do the math, and I did the math, that means that 30 million years ago, there was one revolution of the Earth every second.
I know.
They all go flying off the Earth.
Yeah, the sun would flash across the sky once per second. If it was rotating, if 30 million years ago the Earth existed, because the rotation's been slowing ever since. So 300 million years ago, there were 10 revolutions per second. So you really would, there'd be no difference in light at any time. The sun would literally be a line in the sky as it was flying by. 3 billion years ago, it would have been 100 revolutions per second.
We won't be able to stay
Tell
on
me
the
how
Earth.
anything stayed on the surface with the centrifugal force. There wouldn't have been any gravity. The gravity would have been nullified by the centrifugal force. Especially 15 billion years ago when they say the Big Bang happened at 500 revolutions per second.
Well, the Earth would just spin out of control and go out into space.
That's just, it's ridiculous to think that life formed in that kind of condition. Life formed in that. Okay. So hard matter on a super fast spinning rock managed to somehow become biological life in these extreme conditions. Oh boy.
Moonhawk said self-defense and revenge are quite different. Like when Abraham rescues Lot from the armies of Chedorlaomer, or when I think he's talking to me in use.
You're not talking
Egyptian
about the subject that we're on, that's for
abusing the
sure.
Hebrew. Yeah, because yeah, I don't think that has.
Are they
anything
having a
to-
conversation, a side conversation in the chat?
Mhm.
Okay, so anyway, and I'm not purposefully ignoring you, but I'm purposefully ignoring you because I want to get through this article.
No, but I think he's trying to talk to you. So.
Okay, so carbon dating. Now I showed you this at the beginning when we first said we were a week ago. I think we're going to be talking about creation versus evolution. I showed you this. You know, the carbon dating fallacy. I showed you this where there's volcanoes. This is the Grand Canyon, by the way. The Cardenas basalts are a lava flow that's buried far beneath the Grand Canyon. Supposedly, you know, 1 billion years old, this lava flow down here. Now, obviously older than stuff at the top, right? But there's volcanoes at the top of the Grand Canyon. And they erupted in the past. And there's rock from the lava flow from the volcanoes at the top of the Grand Canyon that have flowed down into the canyon. And they used what's called the lead-lead isochron test, which is supposed to be the most reliable and accurate dating method, right? Well, the stuff that's obviously newer on the top was dated at 1.5 billion years old, when the stuff far below was only supposed to be 1 billion years old. The same dating method. So tell me how ridiculous it is to believe that these dating methods are in any way, shape, or form believable or accurate. When this stuff on the top from a volcano at the top, obviously young, is dated at 500 million years older than the stuff buried way below it. How does anybody believe this garbage?
But that's just because they don't want to believe in God.
Exactly. Just like when I was an atheist.
It's not because they can prove it.
You could have told me this and I would have said, I don't care.
It's whatever narrative it is so that they don't have to deal with God.
And there's lots of people that do try to debunk God and prove this stuff that will argue till they're blue in the face. And I'm sure they'd come up with some cockamamie reason why this stuff is actually older than the stuff buried underneath it.
Yeah.
like I don't, whatever excuse you could come up
That's
with,
what it is.
it would be ridiculous.
It's whatever Stephen Hawking has to say about it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
You know,
That
that
just-
man is dead and in hell right now, and I'm sure he's
Wishing-
just like,
yeah.
wow, I wish I could go back and tell these
and tell
people.
everybody what a liar I was. Yeah. Yeah. But this stuff proves that their dating methods are ridiculously a fallacy. It's just stupid to believe in these dating methods because they're obviously not accurate.
Nope.
They're off by at least 500 million years. And I'm telling you, they're off by way more than that, because one thing I don't have picture of here, I have the UN current lava flows pictured here, and it shows all the data and shows where they were in the lava flows and all that. So you can see it if you want to. One thing that I need to get some pictures of and put on here is the Mount St. Helens eruption in Washington State.
Yeah.
I was a very young man then. I was looking out my window in my apartment in Seattle, looking at the plume of smoke from that eruption. I saw it. It was only a few decades ago. Well, guess what they've found around Mount St. Helens now and the dating of the rocks? It's ridiculous. They're saying that these rocks that we know are only a few decades old are millions of years old, according to their dating records. And they're obviously just formed by this volcanic eruption. And even all the landscape around it, there's layers that have built up.
Mm-hmm.
Layers. But it didn't
Every time they
take
see
millions
layers,
of years.
They think they're millions of years old.
It's only a few decades.
I know.
And really, this stuff formed early on. It was only within the first couple of decades that you saw this stuff. It's so ridiculously stupid to believe this stuff. And I
Yeah.
apologize if you've never ever seen this data before and you were kind of thinking about this. I am not calling you stupid. And I'm really, if I insulted anyone, I apologize for that. But after you've learned this and you see this data, if you still believe in it, hello, McFly, wake up.
Mhm.
They're lying to you.
Moonhawk says that he remembers, he said, I remember when I asked my teacher why the sky is blue, and she told me it's because the sky reflects the ocean. Even as a kid, I knew that wasn't right. The whole earth isn't water.
Yeah.
Water's
And it's
above.
just because of the atmosphere
below.
and the light coming
Yeah.
through the atmosphere and the expanse of space behind it, the reason it's blue. And I know there's other scientific reasons for it that I'm not telling you, but it's not because of the water, right?
Yeah, I heard that too.
I know.
When
It's like
Yeah.
they don't want to deal with it. They don't know any answers, so they just don't want to
Yeah.
deal with it.
It's
So,
reflecting the ocean.
you know, just because.
Yeah.
Like you
I
tell
mean,
your
it kind of
kids.
makes sense, though. I mean, it
Well,
balances,
that's,
the color balances off. Then I'm
back-
thinking, why isn't anything else being affected by color?
right.
Yeah, why is there no other reflection?
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
back before science, back before technology, if you lived near the ocean and you saw this big ocean and you saw the blue, you might think, oh, wow, maybe it's reflecting. That's why, maybe that's probably where that old wives' tale came from. It's just the ocean reflecting.
Or maybe it's like
Yeah.
when your kids say, why is this? And you go, because.
Yeah.
Why is this like
Yeah.
this? You'll know when you get to heaven.
So I'm skipping a lot of stuff, but I really encourage everyone to really study this if you haven't before. Watch the, at the bottom of this, creation versus evolution. I talk about this in great detail, and Diane went to great trouble and great video editing to add in all kinds of other videos and documentation that prove all of these points we're talking about throughout this. So watch that if you haven't seen it. and study these articles and read all this stuff. I mean, here's a link that I have to a UK scientific, the archaeological
Archaeological.
archaeology.
Archaeological.
Never
Oh
mind.
my God.
Archaeological.
Archaeology expert. Oh, if I can just learn how to read and speak.
Hey,
Archaeology expert. They talk about radiocarbon dating. Exactly what I'm talking about, how it is a ridiculous farce. And they actually talk about problems with C14 dating, which it depends on the environment in which the artifact lies. And in fact, when it's organic matter saturated in saline water, the C14 leaches at an accelerated rate. So imagine that the flood, the world was covered with seawater, and all these artifacts were lying in it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it had any effect on the C14 leaching rate? Yeah, probably. So there's a lot of other stuff I talk about on here, but I want to end with this. I talked about this, that the Mississippi River dumps into the Gulf of Mexico, and this is the Mississippi Cone here. This is where the river dumps into the Gulf of Mexico, and this is all the mud from the river that built this massive cone at the bottom, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. Now, it dumps 80,000 tons of mud per hour into the Gulf. That's where that cone came from.
That's a lot.
Well, guess what? They measured this and took the measurement of how much mud is dumping in and how big it is. So how long has it been doing this? Well, it's been doing it for about 4,400 years. You know what happened 4,400 years ago?
Yeah, the flood.
The flood. Almost exactly 4,400 years ago. The flood of Genesis.
There you go.
So, yeah, the Mississippi River has only been dumping into the Gulf of Mexico since the flood.
So is that just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But you can see there's lots of room for growth still.
Wow.
Yeah. It could go another 4,400 years before you'd see any real, evidence. It may not even reach the top by then, but yeah. But then, so that's one thing, right? So the Mississippi River has only been dumping into the Gulf of Mexico for 4,400 years. How do we get millions of years or even billions of years of history from that? Right? Bristlecone pine trees, the oldest living trees in the world, of which the redwoods in California are the biggest and oldest, among the biggest and oldest.
I'd love to see one. I never saw one.
And they estimate they're about 4,000 years old. What happened 4,400 years ago? The flood of Genesis.
Yusuf. When we finish, when you're done with the study, he wants to read Psalm 104.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. The oil that's under the surface of the planet, right? When we tap an oil field, it gushes. Why? Because it's under pressure. And they've studied the pressure in the rocks around these oil fields and estimated that the containment can only be expected to last about 4,000 years before it will burst and collapse because of the pressure. So how did it take 65 million years to develop if it can't maintain that pressure?
Well, and besides, if the world was going around really, really fast.
Right. It would have been sloshing up to the top trying to get out. Yeah. Good point. Another thing we're going to talk about.
She was smart.
Another thing we're going to talk about later is the ice and the magnetic poles, because ice at 300 degrees below zero, if you didn't know this, is magnetic.
Mhm.
So the ice caps, when they were formed, were magnetic, caused some major swings to the magnetic poles. Guess how long ago?
40.
About 4,000 years ago. Yeah.
Time to flood.
We're going to talk more about that later. So then the Bible, and this is what I was talking about, I keep wanting to say American, Moonhawk.
You never know. He might be American next time. I don't know.
He's probably changed his handle. But so it was 1,650 years between the creation and the flood. And then 2,400 years to Jesus, 2,000 years from Jesus to now. 4,400 years ago was the flood. That makes the earth 6,000 years old. Now, we see all of these things that prove the dates of when, I mean, something obviously happened, some catastrophic thing happened to the whole world 4,400 years ago. We can see that in the earth. And then when we look at the dates in the Bible and we see what God recorded for us at 4,400 years ago was this event of the flood, this catastrophic event. Now, you asked about ages. So here's what I did. And I have it on the When is the End of the World document, where I have this, where I talk about, you know, how is it unlikely it'll be another 50 years because of the timing of God's plan? It's 6,000 years. It's the end of the sixth day right now. The seventh day is going to be the day of the Lord, the 1,000-year reign of Christ. So we're right there.
Yeah.
At this point in time in the Bible and prophecy. So, but what I did, like I said, I went to Luke and I looked at all the names in the genealogy list. And I looked them all up. Well, Adam was 130 when he had Seth, who was 105 when he had Enos, who was 90 when he had Canaan, who was 70 when he begat Mahalalel. It was 65 when he begat Jared. It was 162 when he begat Enoch, and so on and so forth. It gives us all of the ages of them when they had that son. All the way to Abraham. It was 1,946 years from creation to Abraham. 2,000 years almost.
He did the math.
2,046 years when God made the promises to Abraham and Isaac was born. And then, like I was saying, we don't have time to go through all the details here, but the Bible tells us, you know, the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. So from the time Abraham was told to go dwell in Egypt, and his sons and their sons, the 12 tribes of Israel, and then the time of Egypt was 430 years. And then we see, they also spend another 40 years because they were too afraid to go into the promised land. So they spent another 40 years in the wilderness until they died and their children went in. So it's 470 years total. So then the time of the judges, right? When Israel was established, they had the time of the judges, which was 450 years until Samuel the prophet, which that's when Saul was made king by Samuel. And the time of the kings was approximately 500 years until Nebuchadnezzar invaded Israel. And the Bible shows us these time frames and all of the history behind it. And then David actually came right in the middle of God's 6,000-year plan at the 3,000-year mark. It's when David came.
David.
Right in the middle. And then from Daniel's prophecy of 70 weeks, and that's why I say it doesn't matter what the Romans say, because we have Daniel's prophecy, that from the time of the commandment to rebuild Jerusalem, which was given in Ezra chapter 1 by King Cyrus, it was 483 years to Christ. The Bible tells us that. So when we add all this up, we've got 2,000 years. We've got 2,000 years. Now, I don't have that on here. I don't have my little pretty picture, but so we've got 2,000 years. Don't I have it all together? I guess I don't. But we've got 2,000 years from creation to Abraham. We've got another 2,000 years to the birth of Christ from Abraham. And then, well, obviously today we're 2,000 years after Christ, AD, after death. So we're at the 6,000. Now, is it exactly 6,000 years? No, just like Abraham was born in 1946 AA, right?
Yeah.
Not exactly 2,000 years. Christ didn't come at the exact 4,000 year mark. And the end of this day is not necessarily going to be exactly 6,000 years. A day is like a 1,000 years to God, and 1,000 years a day. So a day to God is just, this period of time.
Oh, gosh.
And it's 1,000 years to us. So we're at 6,000 years.
Okay.
Almost, very, very close to 6,000 years. And this is one of the reasons, and this is why I have it, when is the end of the world? Because this is one of the reasons I really believe we are in the time of the end right now. I believe that all of these things, all the signs Jesus gave, are actually the signs that we're seeing right now. And all of the things that are happening in the world are all building up to the time of the Antichrist. Satan also knows this, because Satan is setting up the world for his Islamic Antichrist, that he has set up false prophecies in to fool them when it happens, knowing the prophecies of the Bible are going to come to pass. And Satan has set up the world for this coming Antichrist very soon. So all of Islam is breathlessly awaiting the Mahdi. So, yeah, we're there. Anyway, it's 8:32.
We got to read Psalm 104.
Let's do it.
He said he grins from ear to ear.
Psalm 104. If I can control my mouse. All right.
I think this is the
Psalm.
Psalm.
So this is, oh yeah.
Oh, wait, I think that this is
the foundations of the
Psalm
earth, covered it with the deep, and the water stood above the mountains. Yeah, this is what I thought you were talking about, where he talks about they go up by the mountains, they go down by the valleys, into the place which thou hast founded for them. It talks about the flood. Yeah. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coveredest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretchest out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind, who maketh his angels spirits, his ministers a flaming fire, who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever. Thou coveredest it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At thy rebuke they fled. At the voice of thy thunder they hasted away. They go up by the mountains, they go down by the valleys, unto the place which thou hast founded for them. And I'm going to pause here for a sec, because this is one of the things I talk about in my articles, is this is what created the mountains and the valleys, the 7-mile deep chasm, the valley in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, is because of this. It took the waters assuaged, it says, after the flood, and this rocking and rolling created the mountains and created the valleys. The Bible tells us this. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over, that they turn not again to cover the earth. He sendeth the springs into the valleys which run among the hills. They give drink to every beast of the field. The wild asses quench their thirst. By them shall the fowls of the heaven have their habitation, which sing among the branches. Did I miss something? No. He watereth the hills from his chambers. The earth is satisfied with the fruit of thy works. He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle and herb for the service of man, and that he may bring forth food out of the earth, and wine that maketh glad the heart of man, and oil to make his face shine, and bread which strengtheneth the man's heart. The trees of the Lord are full of sap, the cedars of Lebanon, which he hath planted, where the birds make their nests. As for the stork, the fir trees are her house. The high hills are a refuge for the wild goats, and the rocks for the conies. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. The young lions roar after their prey and seek their meat from God. The sun ariseth. They gather themselves together and lay them down in their dens. A man goeth forth unto his work and to his labor until the evening. O Lord, how manifold are thy works! In wisdom hast thou made them all. The earth is full of thy riches. Now remember when we looked at Proverbs chapter 8, where wisdom was with God in the beginning, in the creation, and it was by his wisdom that all things were made, being repeated here. In wisdom hast thou made them all. So is this great and wide sea, wherein all things creeping innumerable, both small and great beasts. There go the ships. There is that Leviathan whom thou hast made to play therein. These wait all upon thee, that thou mayest give them their meat in due season. That thou givest them, they gather. Thou openest thine hand, they are filled with good. Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled. Thou takest away their breath, they die and return to their dust. Thou sendest forth thy spirit, they are created. And thou renewest the face of the earth. The glory of the Lord shall endure forever. The Lord shall rejoice in his works. Remember, all things were created for God's good pleasure. Yeah. He looketh upon the earth, and it trembleth. He toucheth the hills, and they smoke. I will sing unto the Lord as long as I live. I will sing praise unto my God while I have my being. My meditation of him shall be sweet. I will be glad in the Lord. Let the sinners be consumed out of the earth, and let the wicked be no more. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Praise ye the Lord. Yeah.
I've been looking for this chapter, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And then Yusuf.
Yeah. This is a great song.
Good chapter. Bless God, said Jay. And
praise the
Lord. Yusuf. Amen. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
I love that chapter. Just like Yusuf said, God's voice is so beautiful.
Yeah. I know.
I love that. That's
God is
chapter,
awesome.
That's the chapter, Annie, that I was trying to find to send to you. Instead of a prayer, I was going to send that chapter.
Yeah.
And Yusuf, you must have been reading my mind.
So we'll just call that the prayer. Praise God.
Yeah.
And we'll say goodbye because we're way over time.
Moonhawk, Jody, Yusuf, Jay. Anybody over? Nope. Nobody over in YouTube.
Nobody on Facebook or anything. Okay.
Nope. You guys, I love all of you. It was so nice to see everybody in chat and talking to each other and everything. Sachiko and Adam, we love you so, so much. Sissy, I love you. So would you please subscribe to this channel, give it a big thumbs up, share the video. Please share the video with your friends and family, and make sure you start a Rumble account because they are going to kick us off.
YouTube's going to boot us eventually. And I want to say something before you go on. If anybody is subscribed to my channels, you noticed the story of the Bible has been uploaded with a Japanese subtitle. And that was the work of Sachiko, as she translated the transcript from that entire video to Japanese. And then I put it overlaid it on the video so that she could share it with Japanese speaking people. And I'm working on a Polish version for Adam. So praise God that they're doing this work for
They're just
God
increasing
to help
and increasing
to increase the kingdom of God.
Yeah, I know.
Praise
I love them
God.
so much.
Thank you both.
Yusuf said, Jody said, thank you guys. Love you. We love you too, Jody. Yusuf said, love of Christ with you, be with you all the time.
You too,
David
brother.
said, see you guys. And Moonhawk's name is Jesse, if we want to call him that. Jay, we love you. That's really
I'll probably
good.
forget.
Dan, wow. Yeah, I love that. I won't forget.
All right.
It's up to him if he wants to be called by his real name. But anyway, so Sissy, go.
Okay, so if you guys want the truth and nothing but the truth on biblical stuff, here we go. Go to BibleProphecyandTruth.com. If you have any questions or comments for Dan, you can get in touch with him at prophecyandtruth@gmail.com. You can join us right here on YouTube for our live streams every Wednesday and Sunday at youtube.com/prophecyandtruth. Or you can go over to Rumble at rumble.com/BibleProphecy. Both of those sites have our videos on there. They're really interesting. You can watch the 3-part series of Creation versus Evolution, which is
in the
what we're doing
playlist.
right now. See the videos.
Yeah.
You can also see all sorts of great videos on videos.prophecyandtruth.com.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There
And don't
you
forget
go.
about Diane's working on part 11.
Yes,
of
it's
When,
getting ready to
when is
come
the
up.
End of the World series, which
Probably
is
next
also
weekend.
a playlist. And it's also on it's on both channels, and it's also on the videos site. So we'll be uploading that when she's done with it.
And Jay, have a good one also. And we love you too. He said, love you guys.
Love you all.
All right. Love you, everybody. We will see you next Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Next
Chapter
Wednesday.
23 and whatever news comes up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So enjoy your week. Love you.